Doodlebud here. We're going to be talking about these two very unique and special fountain pens. What makes them unique is they don't have a cap. Whether you're picking up that little cheap $3 starter fountain pen, this beautiful vintage one, or these really nice high-end pens, they all have a pen cap. Now that doesn't seem like a big deal to the ballpoint world because we've all are familiar with these, a little Staples Dealy or whatever you get, and they have a clicker on the back and it works perfectly, and that's very commonplace. But when it comes to fountain pens, it's not so common. For fountain pens, the cap plays two very important roles. One, it protects the nib so it doesn't get damaged because they're delicate and they're expensive, especially if they're gold. The other thing is you need to seal the nib so that way it doesn't dry out. So when you pop the cap off, you take the pen out, it's ready to write and it's not all dried up. There are two pens in particular that are the most popular that said, we're not going to do it that way. We're not going to go for a cap. We're going to do something different. That is the Pilot Vanishing Point and the Lamy Dialog 3. Now you can see they look extremely different, totally different approaches when it comes to solving the same problem. So I thought today I'll go through a bit of an engineering breakdown and show you the similarities, show you the differences, and maybe figure out which one does it better. Now on initial look, you can see these pens look extremely different. On one hand here, the Pilot Vanishing Point, you look at this and you pretty much figure right away, this is a pen. And on the back here, we got this little thing that looks like you just be pushed, and you push it and out comes the nib. So it's very intuitive, very simple, very classic styling, especially the ones, this is more of a matte finish. So this is the matte blue with some matte black trim, but especially the ones with the glossy body and chrome trim. It looks very, very classic. You can figure this out right away. You know how to hold it. You know how to click it. Away you go. You start writing with the pen. You have this figured out. And very simple design, but effective. The Lamy Dialog 3, however, takes that Bauhaus design sort of mythology to it, and you look at this and you really don't know what this is right away. Unless someone told you this was a fountain pen, you really have no idea what this is on initial look. You see there's this little kind of chrome dome here at the end, and this kind of looks like a clip. You push that, and there's these lines. You might not know what's going on, so you maybe stumble upon it yourself, or someone tells you, you rotate it, and then all of a sudden, oh, right out here, the nib pops out, and it just kind of happened like magic. You're like, where did that come from? And you just kind of sort of want to do this over and over and over again. So very different approach. We have a rotating mechanism versus a clicking mechanism. Let's start breaking these pens apart and seeing how the approaches differ, but also how they're the same. So let's have a look at the Vanishing Point. Very simple mechanism. As I showed you here, you just click it and out comes the nib. But let's get down to the business end and see what they're doing down here. And this is going to be a little bit tricky just due to contrast and focus, but we'll try my best. So you can see down here, we got something going on. So what it is, it's a little trap door. And here there's like a little retaining style fold that's in that sheet metal. And then you got the spring that loops around. So it loops around, comes down, and then down there in the bottom, again, this focus is going to be impossible. I'm going to get the microscope out here soon. Here's the little spring that keeps that door shut. And so when you push down on the clicker, sorry about bumping here and super magnification going on, that door drops down. And what's a beauty here, you can see that tipping material, it doesn't hit the door because what's happening, it's actually, if I can get the right angle, it's the bottom of the feed that is actually going to be hitting that door, that little drawbridge. So instead of it damaging the tipping material, it's actually, you can see right there, there we go. It's the bottom of the feed right there that's opening the door. So that's super clever. You don't want to be ramming the tip of the pen into the door. You want to have the bottom of the feed catch it and preserve the alignment and smoothness and all that stuff so it's not getting damaged. Now, an entirely different approach to this problem is what they've done here, Lamy, with the Dialog 3. Now, give them some credit because this has been around a long time, actually so long the patent has expired, and now we're seeing, knockoff pens, the Mahjong A1 that are, essentially using the exact design to bring you something at a different price point. So Lamy realized that's on the market. It's very successful. They wanted to do that too, but take a completely different approach. And it is extremely different. So if we go down to the business end on here, we have this dome and you just rotate the pen. It turns, so it's 180 degrees. So you rotate that and all of a sudden this little dome opens up, which is very interesting. There's some rotating bits. I'm going to show you that in a moment. And then just like magic, kind of like coming out of a missile silo, the nib just pops out of there. And then when I first saw this, I was really, really captivated by this. I thought that's extremely extremely interesting and intriguing. And then there's a few other little finer things that happen. If you look here on the body, when you rotate, you watch the pen clip here, it pops down a little bit. I'm sorry, the focus is just terrible tonight. There we go. So there's a pen clip. You rotate the body and it drops it down. Now, visually, it's really cool, but I think it serves a couple of purposes. One, it tries to minimize the impact of the clip getting in the way of your hand position. On the Pilot Vanishing point, there's nothing you can do. It is where it is, and some people that drives them nuts. On the Dialog 3 here, they try to suck it down into the body to reduce that effect a little bit. It's not a whole bunch, maybe a millimeter. The other thing it does is, if you think about this, when you're holding the pen, on its own, the clip does have a little bit of play. When you suck it down into the body, it reduces that play a little bit. So now there's even just minuscule amount of wiggle to it. And if you're gripping the pen around here, you are likely to bump the clip around a little bit. So it adds a little more strength to the clip, which will also reduce fatigue. And how they do it, because what's really neat here is when you drop that down and extend the nib, you can still function the clip. You push the back here, it still pivots. So what they did, at least I know, I'm going here by how it looks to me from a design point, is down in here, that center point goes down into the body. And I'm guessing with the rotating mechanism, there's some kind of fork or whatever, some type of cam that grabs that on the inside and then just has a bit of a cam action and pulls it down into the body during the rotation. So super clever. One, like I said, gets it out of the way, but adds a little bit of strength to it as well. And then not only that, it lines up with those lines just perfectly. So a very, very sleek and elegant solution to this. A lot more complicated, of course, than the Vanishing Point here. But let's crack them open and get a little bit closer look. They both come undone, very simple, and the insides are actually extremely similar. So we just pop these off, away we go. Pilot and Lamy make their own nibs, and they have their own proprietary cartridges and converters. So they have this whole assembly with the converter or cartridge, whatever you got going on in your feed, in your nib. It's all sort of one body. So again, very similar on the inside. Now, how Pilot does it, again, is very simple. And this is all to save costs, right? So theirs just slips in. Like very, very elegant. You can see we have this metal ring here that's on the body, has the threads to put the back of the pen on. And they just have a simple cutout with a simple tab, and it just goes in there. Can only go in one way. It orients itself just perfectly. You can't go any other way. And it just slides in. There's a spring down here in the body, and that just sets it right in the correct place. And there you go. Like it really can't be any more easy than that. With the Dialog 3, it threads. So again, that's just a little bit more expensive from a manufacturing standpoint, but it goes in and it threads quite nicely. It's a little more of a design challenge because the nib can't go in upside down. So when your threads are there, everything has to be aligned. There'll be some special jigs to assemble all this together to make sure the nib is going to be in alignment. So when it comes out, it's not going to be on the side or whatever. So that, again, more details, and that will drive the cost up a little bit as well. But it works great. They have some nice knurling on here to give you a nice little grip. They didn't oversee that. And again, this is a nice little feature. They have a cutout. So there's no way to check the ink level on the outside of the pen, but on Lamy, they have this little cutout so you can see that as well. If we get a little bit closer, these are all assembled and oriented in the right way. You have to do the same thing with the Pilot as well. This notch has to be lined up with the nib and feed. They can't be off. Oops, sorry about bumping it there. So when they assemble it, you got to make sure things don't move on you. So with Pilot, they just have this simple little crimp that's on there. Now that will be a custom tooling, but they got 3 of them on there. Beautiful crimp job, absolutely perfect, really nice depth. And so that secures everything in place. With the Lamy Dialog 3 body here, you can see here, I'm gonna get this on the microscope, but there is 2 just perfect little spot welds. That might not be something you get excited about, but that's a very good job. And no doubt, to do that type of spot weld, they will have some custom electrodes that go in to get it just specifically for this as well. So again, kind of similar approach, but different execution. So there you have the internal guts of the pens, the nibs, the feed, the body here that accepts the cartridge or converter. Oh, one little note I would say here too. You can see the nibs are quite different in design. This is classic across the board with, say, the Safaris and the All-Stars and the LXs. You can swap those all around too, which is a really great feature. This particular nib and feed unit is custom. This is specific to the Vanishing Point, so you can't swap across the range as well. I haven't popped these off. You can see how it goes on. Nice little job there to keep it on nice and secure with both of these. But just looks on the surface, this probably maybe has a little bit more gold in it than this one. I can't say for certain. It'd be tough to do. But I could see it having a little bit more in the Lamy, and that would just be a little bit of a cost savings with the Vanishing Point. But it is smaller. So with the Dialog 3, the nib sticks out more if you like a little more nib exposure versus on the Vanishing Point. It's just a little bit it comes out. But they both go well with the design. Now for overall construction, they're both brass-bodied pens, and then they have a coating that's applied, maybe some type of lacquer. I'll get you up close on that a little bit as well. The paint job on these is absolutely superb, and yeah, the machining quality on both of these is just absolutely on point. But you can see too, they both have this metal insert that's in here as part of the assembly to accept the nib and feed units that go in there as well. This one has one notch, this has two. Now with the Dialog 3, I don't have the little tool here, but when you buy it, there's this little knurled tool that threads on here, and I mean, you can do it with your fingers too. Then you can turn the rotating mechanism, the rotating assembly, and that will open and close the little nib dome that's on here. Now for the Dialog 3, what it's meant to do is for cleaning purposes. So you can see it's closed. You can run this under the faucet, get the ink out, but what they do is they supply you with a proper tool. That's a very kind of German thing, and you now rotate it, sorry, this way, and you open it up. So then you can just put it right underneath the faucet and just let the ink flow and the water flow and clean it out. On the Vanishing Point, you don't really have that, the trapdoor. I mean, it's probably enough just to run it underneath, but if you wanted, you could get, I would recommend like a wooden one, but a skewer, and just slide it down in there, open it up, and clean it out that way. Now, speaking of cleaning and maintaining the pen, the Vanishing Point is so simple. There's just that little door with the spring. There's really no maintenance to do other than just clean the pen like you would with any others. On the Dialog 3, you got a lot more stuff going on. I'm bumping here so much because I'm just trying to get so close to the camera. But let's have a look here, and we'll try to get you the gears. So there we go. Now we can see now the nib unit's out of the way. So you can see we got that gear assembly on there that opens and closes that dome door. So I would say after doing, like, say, a thorough clean, especially if you put this in an ultrasonic cleaner, I should say, or if you really flush this out quite a bit, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get like a little toothpick or something, a little dab of grease, and just get it on those gears every now and then, just to ensure everything's going to be running nice and smooth. Now, unfortunately, I can't see the exact thing that's going on. It's sort of blocked. There's some type of plate that's up there, but I wish I could see exactly how it grabs that clip to snug it down, but I'm pretty sure it's some type of a cam action they have going on just to drop that clip in there. But as far as maintenance, that's about the only thing on the Dialog 3, but when it comes to the Vanishing Point, there's really nothing you have to do. There is one thing I do prefer on the Dialog 3 over the Vanishing Point, and that's what we're looking at here is the clips. So there's nothing wrong with the clip on the Vanishing Point, but it is fairly stiff, and if you're going to slide it over something, you might have to hold the pen and then pull the clip up as well, a little bit more cumbersome, but it's very effective and works well. But I find these types of clips they're pretty springy, and sometimes they need a little bit of help to work with. The Dialog 3 is great. You just, if we can focus, there we go. You just push the back and up it goes. So if you're sliding it into a pen case, you can just push the back into a shirt, over a notebook. I really like that design. It's very similar to, say, on the Lamy 2000. This clip is just fantastic. Just one-handed operation, goes over top of thin stuff or thick stuff. Very, very good. So in, keeping with Lamy's type of design and how they do things, especially over there in Germany, a lot of German pens have clips like that. I really like that design approach to a clip. As I put these pens back together, the next thing I want to talk about is, what can go wrong? The designs seem to both work very well. Both these pens are very reliable. I haven't had really any issues with them. But you always got to think about, well, what could go wrong? So let me just finish putting these back together. Let's start off with the Vanishing Point. Well, what could really go wrong? The door either opens and closes or it doesn't. It clicks or it doesn't. There's really nothing to go wrong. And that I think that is the hallmark of a perfectly designed item, something that's simple and beautiful and effective and very reliable. So I think it's just perfect execution on behalf of the Pilot Vanishing Point. It works just all the time, and it's just, I don't know what could possibly go wrong. Let me know in the comments if you've had a Vanishing Point kind of fail on you, if the mechanism has failed. I'd be very, very surprised in that. With the Lamy Dialog 3, it works really well. But, you know, you do have some gears going on, so there is potential for some more wear and tear, and maybe one failing over time. Another thing, too, it's not really a fail, but it sort of is. So this works great. When you bring it back to center, you got these lines to help you line up. So you turn it, out comes the nib, you bring it back. And I can't explain it to you on the camera, but I'll try to show you. You rotate it, and then you could, again, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, but there is sort of a shunk. It tells you when you're in the right position to stop. But if you are, you know, just rotating this thing like crazy, you can see it works. You can go real fast, but you can overshoot it. And then you go past, and it undoes. So that is one little thing with this one, is it can come undone and you miss it a little bit. So you do sort of have to train yourself. It's not so much of a fail, but there is just a little more potential for things to get out of place, out of sync as well. I haven't had a problem, you know, with the door and stuff like that, but I could see maybe a gear getting out of a line, getting ground up a little bit, maybe it didn't get some grease, and there's just a higher likelihood of a failure in this mechanism versus the mechanism here, which is just so simple. Now, at the start of the video, I said, you know, pens that have a cap, the cap is there to protect the nib and seal it. So let's talk about that. That's probably the most important critical thing that these two pens have to do. Protect the nib and then make sure it seals reasonably well so these aren't drying up like crazy. So as far as protecting it, they both work very well. You got this steel dome here, and you got this trap door, so you can't really get in there. Maybe this is a little bit more protective, but I don't see anything really getting in there. But yeah, that would maybe keep a little bit more stuff out than the Vanishing Point, but they both protect the nibs exceptionally well from any type of impact and stuff like that. Now, as far as sealing goes, the Dialog 3 here has this grommet on here, and one little, you know, Pilot put the Japan on the pen body with the Lamy here. They put it into the grommet, just something very subtle, but like, hey, yeah, check that out. We got a custom grommet. So we're going to put Germany on there. So the sealing on this is quite good. Now, I did have challenges when I originally got the pen. I was using inks that just you shouldn't really use in here. I was using some pretty saturated and fairly sheening inks. And what I found with sheening inks is they look cool visually when they hit the paper, but they do tend to dry out a lot quicker than other inks. And when they dry out, it gets kind of gooey and gummy and sticky. And so that was causing me some headaches. Since I've gone away from using those inks in this pen, I haven't had any problems. Right now I have Kaweco Ruby Red in here. I find it suits the pen and the nib and all that. It looks sort of sharp with this pen, and I'll do a writing sample at the end. This, by the way, has a extra fine nib in it now, and it's a architect grind that I did myself, so I'll get you a close-up of that. But yeah, if you stay away from those kind of problematic potential inks, this pen has operated just fine. I've let it sit for well over a month inked, popped it out, and away it goes. If it ever misses, it is maybe the first 1 or 2 millimeters of a stroke, and after that it's up and running. With the Vanishing Point here, I haven't had it as long as my Dialog 3, but again, haven't really had any problems. I found this has missed just a couple times. Again, barely just out of the start. Now, again, I don't have the same ink, so it's a tough comparison. They are different nib point sizes as well. But, I haven't had really any issues with dry out. It's performed fairly well. I haven't left this for a month inked and then seen how it's done. So I can't give you a 100% comparison, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How prevalent is nib dry out on a Vanishing Point? Because on my Dialog 3, now that I don't use silly inks, it's really, really good. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get out my microscope and just get you some close-ups of some of the features here and some of the parts of these pens. I thought, while I'm at it, let's get out the A1 and compare the finish on this one versus the real Vanishing Point. I'll do a quick writing sample to show you that. Now, the nibs are very different, but we'll just show you how it works anyways, and then we'll see if we can come to a bit of a conclusion on which pen does the no-cap version a little bit better. Here's some close-ups of the nib coming out of the Vanishing Point. It's just such a sleek design. In the background, you can see the brass there just a little bit before the nib comes out, so you can see the brass construction. But that nib unit just comes out absolutely wonderfully. It sits in there perfectly, nice and centered. Great job. Here's the knurling on the Lamy Dialog 3 nib and feed unit all together. There's those spot welds I was telling you about, along with the cutout on the ink window. There's no burrs anywhere. You can see the machining finish on there. But those spot welds are just, yeah, something I get excited about as an engineer. Those are done perfect. And now here is the end of the Dialog 3. Look at that Germany that's stamped there on the grommet. That window there, that door just opens up perfectly. And out comes the nib like a missile coming out of the silo. It's glorious to watch this. These are things I get all excited about. I mean, that motion on there is so nice and smooth. The nib doesn't collide with the dome. It closes perfectly. You know, there is a lot of time and effort that went into that design. And just see that fitment there, the grommet, it fits perfectly. There's my nib. So that's an extra fine Architect I ground in there. It's not perfect, but does a pretty good job for me, especially for printing. The coating on the Dialog 3, it's really good. You don't see any large spray particles on there. It's a very, very good spray that's done onto there. Let's have a look at those alignment lines. This is tough to do too, but those are aligned absolutely perfect. So all these little details are just flawless. There's the Lamy logo. Let's have a look at the vanishing point, the coating on there too. Look how good that is. Like, it is so good. I'm having trouble actually getting a proper focus. It's easier on the matte black. But look at that matte blue finish. It's perfect. Same with the printing there on the Pilot Japan. No flaws anywhere. Absolutely on this coating. Let's have a look at the Mahjong A1 as a comparison. Then you can see the stark difference. Now again, this pen is significantly cheaper. So you're going to save money somewhere. But it just goes to show you, you know, you get what you pay for. I thought I'd throw in a writing sample for you. The nibs are very different. Actually, this pen originally had a medium nib. The reason I bought it is not because I like mediums, but it was so damn smooth. But it turned out it wasn't for me, so I went to an extra fine and put the grind. The medium nib on the Pilot Vanishing Point is superb. They keep up as far as wetness. I just don't have any problems whatsoever. Both of them keep up when it comes to writing. I haven't had any problem with ink starvation unless I'm out of ink. Now, it's a little bit tricky because here we have just a regular medium nib on the Pilot. I went with this one thinking I'd like the medium. I'm a little bit unsure about if I like the medium on the Pilot or if I should have gone with a fine. I might end up grinding this nib. But, you know, whether it suits my writing style or not, that's a personal thing. It performs exceptionally well. And then on the Dialog 3, you know, I decided to grind this one so you can see here a little bit of line variation. Let me get you close up on the hash marks there. So the thicker side cross strokes, thinner downstrokes is very, very slight because it's an extra fine. And again, Architect nibs for me aren't the best when it comes to cursive writing. They do okay, but I'd prefer like a cursive italic over an Architect. But I really enjoy doing printing with the Dialog 3 as well. It still works great for writing, but I did that nib that particular way. Just how I hold the pen, I find it's really a nice pen for printing. So after all of that, which pen does it better? Well, one thing I didn't mention out of the gate is also just how many people does this pen fit comfortably. So if we look at the Vanishing Point, you know, I have a fairly large hand, so this pen isn't too big, you know, for me at all. It fits quite comfortably. But when you compare it to the Lamy Dialog 3, although the actual length on these pens is almost identical, the Dialog 3 is substantially heavier and much more girthy. And for my hand, it's totally fine, but I could see the majority of people, this being just a little bit too big, maybe a little bit too clunky or heavy for their hands. This is going to immediately fit more users' hands easier than the Dialog 3. So that's a big win there. There's also even the Decimo version. So it's a little bit of a thinner bodied pen, and it will be a little bit lighter as well to help people who like a little bit of a smaller and lighter pen as well. So definitely a big win to the Vanishing Point in that regard. Another one too is just simplicity. You know, no special tooling required. You just click it. We've all done that before, and you're writing and you're ready to go. That little door mechanism, it really can't fail. So that's a big win there. The Dialog 3, this works really well. it is impressive from a design standpoint how it just went from something you weren't sure what it was to a really cool pen and all these neat little features. So it's really interesting. There is, more potential for issues. The gears and everything else, things getting caught or things binding or meshing. This, you undoing it too far and missing how that goes. So it's a little bit more complicated. That's part of the design, which also technically usually means it has a higher likelihood of failing. I haven't had any challenges, but I could see that happening more often. Another area where the Vanishing Point really wins is just the pricing. The design is more simple, which also means the price can come down as well. There's more going on, making that clip do what it's doing, the rotating mechanism, the gears, the assembly, all that type of stuff. It's just going to be more expensive to manufacture the Dialog 3 versus the Vanishing Point. And then with the Vanishing Point, they even have that alloy nib version. I mentioned that in my top pens in the $50 to $100 price range. And so if you get a steel nib versus gold, you can pick this up for under $100. So the standard price on this pen in US dollars right now, it goes for around 156 or so, depending where you buy it from. But you can get it for under $100. The Dialog 3, it's usually around about a $320 range. So literally twice the price for the pen. So I understand that is out of reach for a lot of folks. I got a good deal in mind. Didn't pay the full price, not even close. But the Vanishing Point is definitely more accessible from a price perspective. And then even more if you get the alloy nib version. So no doubt that because of just overall shape and size and design, this is more attractive to more people, but also just price point. Like this Vanishing Point way outsells the Dialog 3, and for all those type of factors that I've kind of mentioned too as well. Those are my thoughts when we're comparing the Vanishing Point to the Dialog 3. I think this one would eke out the win for sure, but from a personal standpoint, I almost like the Dialog 3 a little bit better. That whole rotating mechanism really does it for me. And even from a comfort standpoint, I got the nib just the way I like it. So I think those are some brownie points for the Dialog 3 as well. But yeah, both pens work extremely well. But the affordability, overall simplicity, and just the size fitting more hands, that is a huge win for the Vanishing Point. So that's all I got for now. If you haven't done so already, could you just hit subscribe? Takes you a second and helps me out a lot. But until then, we will have to catch you next time.